Today's daf we're going to learn is Eruvin Mem Aleph. This is the daf for Shabbat, the first day of Rosh HaShana. The daf is dedicated anonymously in honor of me as a thank you. If you want, you can see the full dedication in the post. So thank you for the beautiful dedication. We're going to start 3 lines from the bottom of Mem Amud Bet. There were a few situations where we saw at the end of yesterday's daf where someone says, I was at Rav Huna, and they asked the following question, and this is what he answered, or we'll see, didn't answer. So I was at Rav Huna's Ibayalan. They asked the following question. We're getting a little bit off topic now. It's just another question that the students asked Rav Huna. If you have a student who is sitting fasting, it doesn't really matter, particularly it's a student, but someone is fasting, and the fast comes out on Friday. Ma'ula shlume, is he allowed to finish the fast? Meaning, normally, we always say Ben Hashmashot is this in-between time. When Shabbat comes in, is he allowed to be fasting? Okay, you might say a few minutes before Shabbat, maybe he has to break his fast, because one shouldn't go into Shabbat with pain, unpleasantries, not feeling right. So, does he finish the fast? Rav Huna lo hava biyade. He didn't know how to answer. He goes to Rav Yehuda also. Okay, so Rav is going around, asking around. Nobody knows the answer to this question. Now, you might think, fast day. It seems like they're talking about someone took upon oneself a fast. Okay, because normally fasts don't come out on Friday. Let me just give you some examples. Tisha B'Av this year was supposed to be on Friday. Instead, we had Tisha B'Av. We pushed it off a day to Shabbat. Also, Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, same thing. There's only one fast day that can come out on a Friday, based on both the calendar and issues that normally we push off a fast that's supposed to be on Friday. Or let's say it's Ta'anit Esther, we make it earlier because we can't push it off because then it'll be on Purim. And we say, so the only one that could be, and in fact it comes out this year, is Asara B'Tevet, the 10th of Tevet, and it's based on Drashot in the Pasuk of Yechezkel. Says there on the 10th month, the 10th day of the 10th month, which is the 10th of Tevet, when it describes what happens there, it says be'etzem hayom hazeh. So they say it has to be on that day. Therefore, if it falls on Shabbat, we don't push it off or make it earlier. So in any case, it does happen. And the question is, do you finish the fast? Do you fast the entire day, or do you break your fast a little bit before the day ends so that you don't go into Shabbat hungry? So far we don't have an answer. Rav Huna doesn't know, Rav Yehuda doesn't know. Amarava, nechze anan. Why don't we see from here? Ditanya. Tisha B'Av shechali up Shabbat. If Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbat, nowadays this will never happen. But in the days when we just talked about this with Rosh HaShana, where they determined the new moon based on when they saw the new moon and there wasn't a set calendar, it could. So Tisha B'Av shechali up Shabbat. V'chein erev Tisha B'Av shechali up Shabbat. Also, if Erev Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, like this year, where Shabbat was Erev Tisha B'Av, Ochel v'shotet kol tzarko u'malel shulchano afilu k'sudat shlomo b'sha'ato. What does it say? You eat on Shabbat all you want. Okay, so if Tisha B'Av is on Shabbat, you treat it as if it's a regular day. You eat and you don't fast. And likewise, if Sunday is the fast, so then, right, and if it's Shabbat, we're going to push it off to Sunday. And if Sunday is the fast, then you eat and drink all day long, even like the king of Shlomo HaMelech, right? He's considered the king with the most money. If Tisha B'Av falls out on Friday, then here's the classic example. This is what we're looking for. You eat a kibbetza, okay, you bring someone a little bit of food, not a full meal, but a little bit of food, the size of an egg, and he eats kadesh alei kanes l'Shabbat kashu me'uneh, so that he doesn't go into Shabbat, being the word, and this is the word we use by Yom Kippur, me'uneh, tortured, suffering, okay, you shouldn't go in suffering. Tanya. So now we're going to bring a braita about this. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Pam achad hayinu yoshvim lifnei Rabbi Akiva, v'tisha b'av shechal liot be'erev Shabbat haya, was exactly this. Tisha B'Av was on Friday. And they brought him an egg, and he swallowed it without salt. Okay, you see here that they had similar customs that we do. Most people salt their eggs. They also did. It wasn't that he really needed to eat the egg, but he wanted to show his students that you don't actually fast into Shabbat. You break your fast before Shabbat. Rabbi Yossi says, mit'aneh umashlim. He says, we fast and we make up the fast. Okay, what does this mean? You finish, you finish the fast. Meaning you fast through to the end of the day, even into Shabbat. Amar and Rabbi Yossi. So they said, so basically we have Rabbi Yehuda who looks at Rabbi Akiva and says, look, we learned from him. We have Rabbi Yossi, and according to some of the Mefarshim, Rabbi Yossi claims that Rabbi Akiva was sick and that's why he ate. He couldn't fast anymore, but it wasn't because he thought that you're supposed to eat, and it had nothing to do with that. So they say, Amar lam Rabbi Yossi, he brings a proof. He says, don't you agree with me that when Tisha B'Av, like this year, Tisha B'Av came out on Motzei Shabbat. So don't we know that you stop eating Miba'od Yom? In other words, you make sure to eat Seudah Shlishit before the fast, before Ben Hashmasha, before it gets dark, for sunset. And you stop eating the end of Shabbat. So if you stop eating the end of Shabbat, likewise, you could go into Shabbat fasting. So they obviously answer him, one has nothing to do with the other. Amru lo, aval amar lahen, mali likanesba. Okay, so they said to him, but you could say to them, mali likanesba kshu ma'uneh, mali latzeh mimenu kshu ma'uneh. In other words, those are two totally different things. We've been eating all day long on Shabbat. It's not the biggest deal to finish your Seudah Shlishit a little bit earlier. You're not starving at that point. When you don't eat, so you don't eat. It's not the most uncomfortable thing in the world to not be able to eat the last hour of Shabbat. But when you're coming into Shabbat, starved from not having eaten all day, that's a totally different thing. Amrulo, they said to him, Mamarta latzet, sharei, did I read this wrong? Amrulo, aval amar mali lekanes shumune. Oh, sorry. I said this wrong. Okay, I need to explain it better. Sorry, Amrulo, they said to him, aval, okay, it's a little confusing here. Amar lahem Rabbi Yossi, yetem mudim li b'tshab av shchali op echa b'shabbat shemapsik mi ba'od yom. Amrulo aval, I read it wrong. That was my mistake. Okay, going back. They said to him, aval, amar lahen, and then he says to them, so if you agree with me, then mali likanes kashumune, mali latzeh mimena kashumune. What's the difference if I go in, right? If I'm going to go in tortured and I'm going to leave tortured, it's all the same if I'm not eating. So amrulo, and this is where it goes back to what I said before. Im amarta latzet mimena sharei achal v'shata kol hayom kulo tomar likanes bakashumune shelo achal v'shata kol hayom kulo. Right? They say to him, if you said about going out, he ate and drank all day. But you're not going to say the same thing going into it. That kashumuneh, right? It's not the same. We didn't eat or drink all day long. Okay, so basically we have Rabbi Yossi who says you have to fast the whole day, even through into Shabbat, versus the other opinion, Rabbi Yehuda, who says you don't. And then we saw that there was, we even saw Rabbi Akiva who ate, and we saw another situation where they said that you're supposed to eat. But Amar Ula, so who do we hold like? Ula says, Halacha ke Rabbi Yossi. We hold like Rabbi Yossi, that you actually fast the full day. Umi avdinan ke Rabbi Yossi. Do we really hold like Rabbi Yossi or Mini? We have a contradiction. It says in the following source, Ein gozrin ta'anita latzibur b'rashei chodashim b'Chanukah u'b'Purim. When we get to Masechet Tani, we're going to learn that there were all sorts of sets of fast days that they would set up. So it's Taniyot Bahab, Monday, Thursday, Monday. And they would set them up when there was no rain. They would start at certain dates and they would start setting up fast days. So now they say you don't set up a fast, a public fast. These are called public fasts on the first of the month, on Rosh Chodesh, or on Chanukah, or on Purim. We don't want them to come out on one of those days because those are days you're not supposed to fast. They're happy days. Even though they're not, they all have a bit of a weakness of happiness. It's not like Rosh Chodesh. It's really a day of happiness. There's no sort of happiness or holiday associated with it. Hanukkah and Purim, right? Purim has a seudah, a meal that you're supposed to eat. Hanukkah doesn't have anything, but still it's considered a type of holiday. So better not to do it. But if you started a cycle of Monday, Thursday, Monday, and one of the days happens to come out on one of those days, then we don't stop you from fasting. Basically, you fast. Divrei Rabban Gamliel. That's what Rabban Gamliel says. This, by the way, is an interesting thing, that you would think, and everyone's going to know, if you start setting up, you really only have to look at the first or maybe the second date, but the later dates, you don't have to worry about, which is interesting because what this is saying is you can't set it up to go on Rosh Chodesh or Purim or Hanukkah. But if you started already a cycle and later in the cycle it's going to get to Hanukkah or Purim, then you're allowed to do it, even though theoretically you might say, well, don't start the cycle in a way that we know the end is going to be. And this is kind of saying you don't have to look so far ahead into the future. Look at the here and now, look at what's right in front of you, and don't necessarily worry down the road. When it gets down the road, fine, you can do it, even though ideally you shouldn't. Amar Rabbi Meir. So now Rabbi Meir comes and says, even though Rabbi Meir said, in other words, you don't have to stop the cycle of fast. You can continue and do it, even if it's Hanukkah, Purim, Rosh Chodesh. However, you can't finish your fast, okay? Likewise, on Tisha B'Av, that falls out on Erev Shabbat, same thing, okay? You can't, in other words, here it sounds like you don't finish the fast. So how can we say, right, do we really hold like Rabbi Yossi? Here it sounds like we don't. Vitanya, and furthermore, we haven't even gotten to our full proof yet. Lahar p'tirato shel Rabban Gamliel, and here's going to be our real proof. Nichnas Rabbi Yoshua lahafer et dvarav. This is a fascinating line. If you remember way back when in Brachot, there's the famous story of Rabban Gamliel where he humiliates Rabbi Yoshua. He makes him stand on his feet, right? He embarrasses him. He makes him bring, right? There was a bunch of stories all over Shas where he makes him bring, on the day he disagreed about Yom Kippur, and he had to bring his makel and termil and all that stuff on Yom Kippur, the day that he thought was Yom Kippur, in front of everybody. And basically humiliates him. And at a certain point, after a few times of this happening, the people got fed up and they basically kick Rabban Gamliel out of the Beit Midrash. They bring in Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah in his place. And then in the end, they bring back, right? Eventually, they bring back Rabban Gamliel. He makes peace with Rabbi Yoshua. But this is an interesting story because here you see, and I think that you have to understand the story with the background of those stories. As soon as, it almost sounds like as soon as Rabban Gamliel dies, what happens? Rabbi Yoshua comes to lahafer et dvarav. He wants to change the halacha about this issue of, basically, Rabban Gamliel said, don't finish your fast. And Rabbi Yoshua wants to change that halacha. Now, I assume he waited after he died, which makes sense because he didn't want to go against Rabban Gamliel in his lifetime. On the other hand, it's very tricky that once someone dies to all of a sudden now come out and say, I want to change what against that rabbi. Now, whether or not he meant this is a bit of a personal vendetta or not, we don't really know. But it's possible that the people viewed it that way, and that might explain their reaction. Okay, it's not clear what Rabbi Yoshua's motivation is. But what happens? Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri al-Haglav, Amar, he gets up on his feet and he says, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Chaze ana de batal resha gufa azil. He says, it seems to me that we should follow the head, in other words, the original position. Kol yamav shel Rabban Gamliel kavanu halacha kemoto. Here comes the clincher line. All the years of Rabban Gamliel, we always paskin like him. Now you want to cancel what he said? Now, who are you to now come and go against what he said? Yoshua, notice he calls him Yoshua. He doesn't even call him with the proper respect. Rabbi Yoshua. He says, Yoshua, ein shom'in lecha, shekvarnik ba'ah lecha Rabban Gamliel. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri comes out very strongly in support of Rabban Gamliel's position against Rabbi Yoshua. Below, and here he says, not only that, but Kranik ba'al chak Rabban Gamliel v'lo haya adam shir'er b'davar klum. Shelo er b'davar klum. Okay, so what do you see here? And nobody ever raised an issue about this. Okay, this is a fascinating line. In fact, there's an interesting note in the Koran I wanted to read to you. Second, it says here, right, that there was no one who disputed this in any way, basically, right? This is the way it was. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri set it down as if there's nothing to discuss here, and nobody. So first of all, and it's possible he said, basically, it sounds like this is the words of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. He said, and the fact that Rabban Gamliel said this and no one disputed him is proof. So in the Quran, they have this great note, which basically says we don't really generally accept the argument that just because nobody disagrees, right, that we didn't hear someone arguing about it, that that's the way the rule is. But then he quotes the Maharik where he says that if several people say they've never seen something before and no one denies it, that it is considered some sort of proof. So the fact that he says it and no one seemed to deny it seems to prove that we hold like Rabban Gamliel. Again, Rabban Gamliel said, it's okay. You're supposed to break your fast before Shabbat. And Rabbi Yossi says you're not. So how could we say halacha like Rabbi Yossi when it seems clear from here, halacha like Rabban Gamliel? So the answer is, B'derosha Rabban Gamliel, avud Rabban Gamliel. B'derosha Rabbi Yossi, avik Rabbi Yossi. When in the generation of Rabban Gamliel and seemingly right after his death, they held like him. But apparently over time it changed and they held like Rabbi Yossi, which by the way shows Rabbi Yossi is more stringent. There was a move to become more stringent here. So now we're going to question that first assumption, though. First, we're going to understand how we hold like Rabbi Yossi. Now we're not going to understand, did they really hold like Rabban Gamliel? The HaTanya does it. It's saying a bright. Amar Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Tzadok. Ani mi b'nei Sinav ben Binyamin. I'm from the family of Sinav, from the sons of Binyamin. Okay, what was known about them? They were on this list, this roster of people that would bring the trees for the burning, the wood for the burning of the Beit HaMikdash on the altar. There was a tradition, okay, it started with there weren't a lot of public funds and people needed to bring wood to the temple. So people volunteered to bring wood. And then it became a tradition that each family is responsible at a certain time to bring the wood. So the family of Sinav, the son of Binyamin, from the Shevet Binyamin, they had their day to bring the wood was on the 10th of Av, the day after Tisha B'Av. Pamachat chal Tisha B'Av liyot b'Shabbat. What happens when Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat? Dachinu la'achar Shabbat. They pushed it off till after Shabbat. V'hitaninu bo v'lo ishlimnuhu. And then they fasted, and they didn't finish their fast. Meaning, what's the issue here? So the issue is that when it was their day to bring, they would bring sacrifices, voluntary offerings, and it became a type of holiday for them. And because it was a holiday for them, so they weren't able to fast because it was Tisha B'Av, but they didn't finish the day, as showing that this is a holiday for us. So why is it mipnei? Here it says it mipnei sheyom tov shalanu haya, because it was our Yom Tov. Now, what are they going to prove from here? They're going to say, well, what's the reason? Tama de Yom Tov, ha erev Yom Tov mashlimin. The reason is it's their Yom Tov. But if it was erev Yom Tov, then they would have finished. In other words, then, right? What does this show? That if the fast came out on erev Yom Tov, meaning or erev Shabbat, like we were discussing, then you would. Okay, this was a special thing because it was their Yom Tov. They didn't finish. But if it was erev Yom Tov, right? And here it came out on Yom Tov, so that's why they didn't finish. But if it comes out on erev Yom Tov and it's just leading into Shabbat, then you're going to finish out the day. Amar Ravina. So Ravina says, Shana Yom Tov shel Divrehem. Okay, Yom Tov of Divrehem, this holiday that they had, this family, the family of Sinav, is a different kind of fast. Why? And has a different type of sanctity than Shabbat. And therefore, we're going to say, Yom Tov shel Divrehem is different. Mitoch shemit'anim bo sha'ot. What's different about it than Shabbat? If, what happened here, Tisha B'Av fell out on their holiday, we actually allow you to fast on this day. Since it's weaker, that means the Yom Tov. Therefore, mashlimim bo arviot. What does this mean? Every year Tisha B'Av comes out, and it goes right into the 10th of Av, right? The end of the 9th is the beginning of the 10th. And we're always mashlim, the 9th, even into their holiday. So since mitanim bo sha'ot, it's weak that we can fast on that day, we also finish a fast that comes out on the day before that day. But Shabbat, but on Shabbat, since you're not allowed to fast at all, if Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, we push it off a day. Therefore, you don't finish the fast into Shabbat. So what do you see here? This is exactly, right? We basically said, how could it be? 1 second, we started with the question of Dorosh Rabban Gamliel, right? But Dorosh Rabban Gamliel, how did we do? Like, right? Did we really hold like Rabban Gamliel? It sounded like, because they did this, right? Tama di Yom Tov, ha erev Yom Tov mashlimin. It sounds like if it comes out on erev Yom Tov, they finish Tisha B'Av all the way up unto the holiday. And therefore, Ravina said, no, that's different. The fact that we finish the holiday, we finish the Tisha B'Av, and we say Tisha B'Av goes all the way until into their holiday, that doesn't prove anything about Shabbat, about Erev Shabbat. When it happens on Shabbat, we wouldn't say the same thing. Amar Rav Yosef, Lo shmi alei hashmata. Rav Yosef says basically, I never heard this. I never heard, what did I never hear? I never heard Ula say the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. So now, Okay, lo shmiya lehashmata. So Amar le'abai, if you remember, Rav Yosef, when he got older, he forgot a lot of his Torah. So Amar le'abai, at amar nialan, v'aha amar nialan, and not only you said this to us, and on what you said to us, aha amar nialan, that means on what you said ein kozrin tanit al tzibor b'rashei chodashim b'chulei. In other words, you said then about this whole thing about ein kozrin tanit tzibor on Rosh Chodesh and all those other days. You said about this, Amarav Yehuda Amarav, Zo divrei Rabbi Meir Shama Mishum Rabban Gamliel, Aval, here comes the key, Chachamim Omrim, Mitaneh Umashlim. You're supposed to fast the entire day. My lava kulhu, isn't that referring to everything? Meaning Hanukkah, Purim, if you do all these days, you fill them, and even Erev Rosh HaShana that falls on Shabbat. So the Gemara says, Lo, a Hanukkah Purim. It's only talking about Hanukkah Purim. It's not talking about Erev Tisha B'Av that goes into Shabbat. Hachinami mistabra. Likewise, we could prove this. If really it was referring to everything, and then meaning it was also referring to Erev Tisha B'Av Shechali Yom Shabbat, which remember was our original question. Okay, let's just go back to the beginning of today's daf. Amar Rabbi Kiavina beRav Huna Ibai Lehu Bar beRav Diyati B'Tanita B'Mali Shav Tamau Lashlume. And what did we say? He asked Rav Huna. He didn't know. Then they asked Rav Yehuda. He didn't know. So now they say. It would further prove this because if it really meant on everything, Rav Yehuda didn't know the answer. If it was very obvious from here, then he would have had the answer. So when they're talking about this, they must be only referring to Hanukkah and Purim and not referring to a case of, right, where if you put a fast on Hanukkah Purim, you finish out the day, even though, the Chachamim disagree with Rabban Gamliel, even though when it comes to Tisha B'Av going into Shabbat, not necessarily. So now they say, wait, but according to this, but wait, Mar Zutra says in the name of Rav Huna that the halacha is you fast and you complete the fast, meaning you don't stop early. And Haba Mine Rabba Me Rav Huna, isn't that where we started today? That Rabba asked Rav Huna for Lo Pashatle and he didn't have an answer. How do you resolve that? So he says it must be Elaham Makame Deshama Bahala Batar Deshama. When they were asked the question, when Rav Huna was asked the question, he must not have heard this yet. But later, this Braita got to him, where the Braita says Chachamim Omrim Mitaneu Mashlim, and therefore he changed his mind, and he did know, and he said Mitaneu Mashlim. So therefore, you could say the same thing. Hachanami, Hamakama Deshama, Halabatar Deshama. It doesn't prove anything about Rav Yehuda. You don't necessarily have to say it's only referring to Hanukkah and Purim. Maybe it's also referring to Tisha B'Av and Shabbat. And just this was before Rav Yehuda heard, and at first he didn't have an answer. And now his answer was the Chachamim say you actually do complete the fast. So we have all these different traditions of Rabban Gamliel versus Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says you complete it. Rabban Gamliel says you don't. And then it's not clear from here whether the rabbis disagree with Rabban Gamliel or not about this issue. So now, Darash Mar Zutra Mishmei de Rav Huna, Halacha Mitanim Umashlimim. And now Mar Zutra says in the name of Rav Huna that in fact we do complete the fast. And this is in fact, in case you were wondering, this is what we do on Asara B'Tevet when it comes out on Friday, which is going to be this year. We complete the fast into Shabbat. Okay, we don't break our fast before Shabbat. And with that, Hadron Alach B'Kol Marvin, and we're now going to start a new parak. Mi shehotziu nochrim o ruach ra'a ein lo ela arba amot. Now we have a whole interesting thing. Somebody gets, generally the rules are, if you leave your Tchum Shabbat where you're allowed to go, wherever it is, whether you were Konesh Vita, you weren't Konesh Vita, doesn't matter. You leave whatever space you're allowed to go in. As soon as you walk out, you can't move more than 4 cubits. That's it. You're left with, this is my space. But what if you were pushed out of there against your will? So here we're going to see some interesting examples. Hotziu Nochrim, non-Jews, put them out. Or a ruach ra'ah, or an evil spirit came. Okay, some people say it's an evil wind, some people say it's an evil spirit, right? A tornado, let's say, or the dibuk gets into someone. People talk all the time about these spirits, or it could be any sort of force, anything that was against his will or her will. Ein lo ela arba amot. All you get is 4 amot. Okay, even though you didn't do this on purpose. Hichziruhu, but if they put you back, ki'ilu lo yatzah, it's as if you never left. What if they bring you to a new city? Nitanuhu b'dir o b'sahar, or they put you in a pen or a stable. Rabban Gamliel v'Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah omrim mahalechet kula. What's the difference between these? These have boundaries. Before we were just talking about you were left in the middle of nowhere. But if you go into a place that has walls, the question is, and you're outside your tchum already, where you only have 4 amot, but is this whole thing considered one space? And I can walk in the whole thing. So, according, there's a machloket. Rabban Gamliel, Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah say you can walk the whole space. Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva, Omrim, Ein lo ela arba amot. You only have 4 cubits. That's it. And now we're going to see a case that happened. Maseh shabal mipal nasrin. Okay, in the Koran they say that this is a city in Italy. They came from Italy, v'ifliga spinatam bayam, and their boat was going in the water. Rabban Gamliel, Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah halchu et kula. Okay, the idea is what happened. They left the tchum, right? They were in the boat went on Shabbat, and they left the tchum of the city. So, right, they went more than 2,000 amma into the water. So they said we can walk on the whole boat based on, they got taken out, wasn't there, right? They got taken out, and therefore they can walk around the whole thing, because even though they only have 4 amot, doesn't matter why they left, but the point is they have the whole boat though. Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva lo zazu midalet amot. They didn't leave their 4 cubits. Sheratzu lachmir al atzman. This whole thing is a little bit strange. Why lachmir? They thought this was the law. It's a little bit of a question about that line. We'll get to that in a few pages. There was one time where they were out in a boat and it didn't get into the namal until it was already dark, into the port. First of all, there's a lot of stories about Rabban Gamliel in boats. It's clear he traveled a lot on boats. So they said, can we get off the boat? He said, listen, I saw and I checked and I saw we were in the tchum already before Shabbat came in. Therefore, you could get out of the boat. Now, this is interesting. How on earth did he measure? Remember, we talked about the ropes and measuring, and he was in the boat, and he just looked, and he knew. Anyway, the Gemara will get to this also. All these questions will be answered on Mem Gimel. Tanu Rabbanan. Now the Gemara brings a braita. There's 3 things. Okay, now we're getting outside of the daf a little bit, but connected to the story about Nochrim or Ruach Ra'ah taking him out. There's 3 things that cause a person to go against his own wishes and against God's wishes. What are these? This is very apropos for Rosh HaShana and thinking about how to bring in the new year, and in general about that we're stuck in this virus where we really have no control over our lives, and that's what this is saying basically. Ve'eluhen ovdei kochavim. Okay, non-Jews. The idea here is that non-Jews often instituted all these ordinances, and we can't do mitzvah because they forbade circumcision sometimes, and they forbade learning Torah and all sorts of other things, and you're stuck. Ve'ruach ra'ah, an evil spirit. V'dikduke aniyut, and extreme poverty. Some people say also extreme poverty leads to disease. Okay, this could be pandemics, right? Okay, there's certain things that can make you not be able to do what you're supposed to be doing. L'may nafkamina, what's the relevance of saying these 3 things? L'mibai rachamei alayhu. Okay, you can ask for rachamim. Okay, number 1, this means you should pray. Okay, meaning they're beyond your control. What are you left with? And this is what Rosh Hashanah, right? A day of prayer. You pray. Or one could view it as if people see you have these things upon you, they'll look at you and they'll pray for you because they'll realize you need their prayers, as opposed to judging you and saying, why aren't they keeping the laws or why aren't they this? They'll realize that there's something else that's causing you to do this, and they'll ask for rachamim for you. They'll pray for mercy. These people suffer so much that they won't end up seeing hell. This could mean 2 things. In general, in the Gemara, what this really means is you'll get all your punishments in this world and you won't be punished in the future world because you already have used up all your punishments. All your punishments will have gone to you in this world. But you could also view it as, often people say, something bad happened to me, let that be my kapara, right? That's where it comes from, okay? It comes from this idea of, that's my kapara, and now I'll be right, I'll be good, I won't have anything. But you can also view it a little bit differently, which is, sometimes people say, right, enough bad things happen to me, there's a limit to how many bad things can happen to me. Unfortunately, we know this isn't always the case. But people often feel that way, right? If this happened to you, well then probably something else bad won't happen to you. So Eluhain, dikduke aniyut, again, extreme poverty, choli me'ayim, intestinal pain, v'harishut. This is if the tax collectors are after you. These were the non-Jewish tax collectors that were known to be taking things for no good reason. Not like, doesn't really mean just paying regular taxes. Here's an interesting one. Someone who's married to a bad woman, right, can be stuck in a really bad marriage. We all know, and it could go both directions. Again, they always speak to the men. But being stuck in a bad marriage, we all know how painful that could be. V'idach isha ra'a mitzvah legersha. Okay, now why doesn't the Tanakama think, the first opinion, It's only yesh omri mishara, because they say, well, you can divorce her. V'idach, here's a really interesting line. Zimnin diktubata meruba. Sometimes you can't afford to divorce her because you promised her all this money in the ketubah and you don't have the money to pay her. Inami, alternatively, it lebanimina, you have children, below matzah megarish, you can't divorce her because then, and now it becomes a little tricky, but I guess maybe you're not capable of taking care of the children on your own and you need your wife, or you don't. Right? In modern day, you'd say, well, it's hard for the children to have a divorce, breakup, etc. Obviously, one could say the opposite, right? It's hard for the children to live in a house where the family, the parents aren't getting along. Anyway, it's just some interesting lines here. We're going to keep going. L'may nafkamina, what's the relevance of this? L'kabule me'ahava. You should accept these with love. Realize that this is your kapara, basically, as we say, it's your atonement. And therefore, you should accept them with love. There's 3 people who die while they're in the middle of speaking. In other words, they might just die suddenly. Now, we'll see in a minute why you need to know this. Okay, so that's the one we mentioned before. You have intestinal problems. They could cause your death. Chaya, a woman in labor or even after labor. Vihidrokan, that's a kind of disease. It's not sure if it was from your mouth or it's also, some people say it's something else. It's of your heart, I think. It's a heart right. Rosh says choli hapeh, but some people say it's a heart issue or somewhere lower down. I forget. L'may nafkamina, what's the relevance? And no one really knows exactly what it is in modern day language. What's the relevance of all this? Limshushe be zavdata. This means that you should prepare the tachrichim, the clothes that the dead person is buried in. You should prepare them because someone might die. What does it mean to prepare? Why should we prepare it? Well, the assumption is, some of the Mepharshim explain that the idea here is that we want you to prepare so that what basically we mean is the person should be mentally prepared that something might happen to them, and therefore they should do tshuva, they should think, right? These are moments in your life where there's a lot of danger and you might die, and you should actually use as an opportunity to rethink your life, to rethink things, right? Again, very apropos Rosh HaShana time, and living in a pandemic makes you look with perspective at your life. So when they get the tachrichem ready, the person sees, you're getting tachrichem ready, am I going to die? Oh my goodness. And then you think, oh, I better start thinking about improving who I am and what I do. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Yatsa ladat ein lo ela arba amot. So Rav Nachman now says in the name of Shmuel, if you go out, this didn't mention in the Mishnah, if you go out with your own intention, you only get 4 amot. Now, first of all, that's obvious. Pshita. If a non-Jew takes you out, you only have 4 amot, and it was against your will. Of course, if you go out on your own, you only have 4 amot. So ela ema, okay, so reread what Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel. Chazar ladat ein lo ela arba amot. If he comes back on his own, then he only gets 4 amot, even in his own city. So now they're going to say, Hanami Tanina, that's also obvious and implied from the Mishnah. Because the Mishnah said, but it sounds like Hichziruhu to Ki'ilu lo yatsa. Hichziruhu hu to Ki'ilu lo yatsa. If they brought you back in, it's as if you didn't go out and you can walk wherever you want. But if they took you out and you came in on your own, it would sound and be implied from the Mishnah, Eno ela daled amot. Therefore, ela ema, so again, change what he said. He must have said, Yatsa ladat v'chziru nochrim. If you went out on your own and non-Jews brought you back in, Eno ela daled amot, because you're penalized for the fact that you went outside the tchum. But Hanami Tanina, you can also infer that from the Mishnah, because the Mishnah said, Hotziu v'chziru ki'ilu lo yatsa. Which sounds like, right, if they take you out and they put you back in, it's as if you never went out. But it sounds like, right? But if you went out on your own, it sounds like no, even if they bring you back in. So now they say, maybe it's read disjunctively. How so? Maybe you would think it's read this way. Right? If they took you out and you come back on your own, it's trying to tell you, you only get Talad Amot. But maybe if Yatsa Ladat Bechziru Nochrim Ki'ilu Lo Yatsa, you might have thought, though, if you go out on your own and non-Jews bring you back in, maybe that's not derived from this case. And maybe you'd be able to walk as much as you want. Therefore, Kamashman. That's what Rav Nachman was trying to teach. Now they ask a great question. You now get put outside the tchum by these non-Jews, and you're not allowed to come back in the tchum. You can't walk more than 4 amot. What if hutzrach l'nikavav mahu? This is back to our brachot sugyot. Let's say you need to go to the bathroom. What are you going to do? You can't go to the bathroom in the middle of the road here, and you're stuck, right? It's embarrassing. Amar lahem gadol kavod habriot shedochet lo taseh shebatorah. We learned this in brachot. Kavod habriot surpasses everything. It's really embarrassing to have to urinate in the middle of the street. So what do? You basically say, we can override this issue. Tchumen is only to Rabbanan. Remember, it's lo taseh shebatorah, but it really means lo tasur min davar sheyagidu lecha. Don't leave what the rabbis tell you, meaning you have to keep rabbinic law. Well, those can also be overridden for kavod habriot. So Amar Nahardea ipikechu ayaletchuma. He adds, by the way, in Nahardea, they say, it's a city in Bavel, if he's smart, since he already gets to walk now to go to the bathroom, what should he do? He should walk back into the tchum and go to the bathroom there, and then he'll already be back in the city. And once he went in, he goes in, because this is like the non-Jews putting you back in, because you're allowed to go in. So in a way that you're allowed to go in, then we allow you to walk as far as you want. So that's just a cute little thing. Be smart about it. Amar Papa, perot sheyatzu chutz l'tchum. Now we're going to learn that not only you can't go out of your tchum, but all of your possessions can't leave your tchum either. So what if there were perot that left the tchum, the chazru, afilu b'mezid lo ifsidu et mekomam? If they got taken out and brought back in, since they're not animate objects, we basically say, oh, they can be moved around the city now as much as they want. We don't penalize them. My time, anusin ninhu, because right, they don't have a brain. They didn't think, oh, I'm going to leave. We don't penalize them. But Eitive Rav Yosef Bar Shmuel, Rav Papa, but he brings a contradiction. Rabbi Nechemia v'Relezer ben Yaakov omrim la'olan asurin ad shichzuru limkomam shogigim. So now, what does it say? Right, they're forbidden until they get taken back to their place. Limkoman shogigim. So until they get brought back to their place, bishogeg. In other words, only if they're accidentally brought back do they get there to walk around, to be moved around. Otherwise, they don't, which sounds like b'shogegim b'mezid lo. It sounds like if they're taken out purposely. Now, it's true they don't have a brain, but the person who moved them does, and you're the owner, you're responsible for them. So we do penalize you. So what do they answer? Tanahi, it's a machloka between Tanaim. Detanya, perot yatzu chutz l'tchum, b'shogeg yochelu, b'mezid lo yochelu. If they go out accidentally, you can eat them. If they're intentionally taken out, then you can't. Right, then you can't eat them, meaning if you're in your tchum and they're outside the tchum, you can't access that food. So that's the opinion that says it's a problem. Rabbi Nechemia omer b'mkomam yochelu shelo b'mkomam lo yochelu. And tomorrow we'll pick up from this and explain what is this b'mkomam, and we'll show how this is a machloket between Tanaim. Stop here for today and pick up in the next shiur with the daf for the second day of Rosh HaShana. Shana Tova to everyone.